Hi everyone, my name is Paige and you are watching Elevate Filipino TV. It's the place where you want to be to discover possibilities, unlock your potential, and finally create a life in a business that you love. Joining me today is my dear friend Karen Swyszcz. So Karen is the founder of Making the Bacon and Kaibigan Connection. Hi Karen, welcome.
Hi, Paige. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
I'm super excited because you know what guys, I have to say that I'm part of Kaibigan Connection community and I actually, like I've told them the story many times, I have a really good feeling that it is, it plays a big role as to why there's even an Elevate Filipino TV. So, when I became a part of their community, I realized that there is a need for us to band together, to come together as Filipinos so that we can help one another, support one another, and learn from one another. So I just want to say, Karen, thank you for stepping out of your comfort zone to start that.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for being a part of the community, and thank you so much for doing this.
All right, Karen. So, one of the things that I absolutely love that you said is to start that passion project because you never know what opportunities will come out of it. So, share with our viewers today the backstory behind why you believe that is so.
Yeah, and it was one of those crazy things where I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna start this. So my blog originally started off as a passion project, as a way to escape the monotony from my day job. And it was just something that rekindled my love for writing because as a kid, I really enjoyed writing. But I had found over time, it provided me with opportunities. It enabled me to connect with others over the internet. And yeah, I developed a lot of newfound skills, which actually enabled me to leave my job and join a tech startup with absolutely no tech education background or experience. But one of the things they said that resonated with them on my resume was the fact that I started my own thing and just built a community and built a
Mm.
blog from there.
That that's very interesting because, oftentimes people are worried about what it would look like on their resume if they don't have that background. So actually, how different is your background, with the blog that you started and your corporate job?
So even to go further back, my background is I have a bachelor's degree in science, and I always laugh and joke to people that it's like a really expensive piece of art that hangs in my parents' family room because I'm not using my degree. And yeah, with respect to my career background, it's actually a series of zigzags. So I've done everything from working in pharmaceuticals. I've worked for the
Mm.
government. I was even, working in retail and personal training. So I can't even really say that I've had like one specific career or even a set career path. So it's just very strange in that how my blog kind of helped shape the career path I'm pursuing right now.
I find that really interesting because, obviously as Filipinos, we have this, we get a lot of, I guess, advice from our elders as to, okay, if you want to be successful, you got to do this path. Don't try to shake the boat. So how did you maneuver? I know you were telling me the story of, first of all, you were really trying to get to know your roots as a Filipino. And part of that also is maneuvering all those things that were embedded in us many generations, that this is what your life should look like. And how did you transition confidently into what you're doing now?
That's like a really great question. To be honest, I wouldn't say the transition was very smooth because I remember when I made the decision to leave my very steady job, I'd be losing all the benefits and the pension. I was met with a lot of criticism from family and coworkers, but at the end of the day, I knew I had to listen to my gut because
Mhm.
if I didn't take that risk, I knew that I would end up regretting it. And it was a very, very scary going into the job, not really knowing what was to be expected, even taking a huge salary cut. But to be honest, it was probably the best move I have ever made, and I don't regret it at all. So sometimes the scariest things end up being the best things for you.
Were you single at that time or were you already married then?
I was living with my boyfriend, now husband at the time. And actually
Okay.
it was interesting because that same year I had left my very steady government job. We actually ended up getting married a few
Oh.
months later. And as many of you know, how expensive weddings can be, even no
Mhm.
matter how much you try and cut the cost, there are a lot of hidden costs adding up. So I knew that was also risky. But I think when push came to shove, it was really my well-being, and
Mhm.
unfortunately I was experienced a lot of like depression, and just all my anger and frustration, I was taking it out on my husband, mainly because we live together. So it's one of
Mhm.
those things, the things that you pursue, the path you pursue, if you're not happy, um, it really affects everything else around you, like everything else
Mhm.
that's a part of your life. So your relationships with friends, family, your significant others. So I knew it was still, again, the right thing to do. And yeah, it's actually funny, if I can add to this, that my husband says that I'm a lot happier now. I'm not so angry.
Oh, good. I mean, everyone can tell, like, and I love that you actually open that up. I know that it's often conversation that you talk about behind closed doors, but sharing it with our audience, I'm pretty sure you can relate to it. I remember, like, that's very similar to my story, but it's different in a way where I was actually a newlywed when I ended up deciding to quit my job and start my business. Because just like you, I was depressed and I was like, oh my gosh, is this the life that, like, we got married? I was a newlywed, we just got married, and I'm thinking, is this really what it is? Like, you just get married and then you get stuck in this dead end job, and you eat, sleep, repeat, come home, and you feel absolutely tired and no passion at all, no inspiration, because you're just like a robot, like just going through the grind. And I love that you mentioned, when you're unhappy in one area, it tends to pull on the other areas of your life. And I'm guessing, because you were engaged at that time and you were planning to get married, it was really a big inspiration to be able to, you know what, it's time to focus on what makes me happy so that I can be a better wife. And then eventually it became a better way of serving other people in your circle. And so I'm curious, how does your family react now? I know that you mentioned you had a lot of backlash initially.
It was interesting when I decided to. So I feel like it's almost everything every time I try something new, I'm always met with a lot of curiosity and wondering like, oh, how is this gonna work? So when I first joined the startup, it was always like, well, you're leaving a steady job. And then when I started my first business, they're like, oh, well, how are you gonna make money? What are you gonna do? And then even when I also started Kaibigan Connection, how is this going to work? Will this even be of interest to people? It's just one of the things, that there are always going to be people in the back of your mind, like questioning what you do just out of curiosity and not understanding, but you shouldn't let that hinder your mission, your
Mm-hmm.
goal. So it's almost, sometimes it gave me a little bit of drive to like, no, I'm gonna show you, like, this is something that is worth pursuing, and it's just a matter of time. Like, just you wait. And then now that people have been starting to see the traction we've experienced with Kaibigan Connection, they're like, oh wow, this actually could be something big in the
Mm-hmm.
future.
And I love that you touched on, what a lot of the times people say, oh, before you start something, check the marketplace. Is there even a demand for it?
We
Are they
didn't check.
wanting this? Yeah, yeah. Like, I love that you actually mentioned that, because you get all these advice that tells you check the marketplace, check the statistics, check the analytics. And so it actually stops people from pursuing their passion, their what they feel is their actual calling in life, because maybe they're not seeing that, or maybe they don't even know how to, I guess, like, check the marketplace to begin with, right? So what stops a lot of the times is that when people want to start a passion project, they don't know all of the steps. And I want you to share with us, how did you maneuver that? Because as you've mentioned, you did check if there was a market for it. How did you maneuver just, not knowing what's next? So for example, if someone created a blog, they post their first, they create their first post. A lot of the times they will ask, and then what, right? How can you be comfortable with that?
I think as an entrepreneur, when you're starting things, you have to learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable and to not
Mm.
know everything, but to have that constantly learning mindset. I mean, I didn't know everything when I first started, but it was just a matter of, like you said, the importance of starting and to not be like, get that analysis paralysis, because I believe as you start and the more you time you put into it and the more you you know, tinker around with it, then you become even more curious. You're like,
Mm.
oh, okay, how does this work? I want to learn this work. And we're fortunate to be living in the age of internet and YouTube, and as we've seen more recently, the explosion of online courses. So
Mm.
I think it's just a matter of staying curious and also being willing to learn the things, so absorb that information, but being able also to apply that information, because when everybody starts, like, nobody is born knowing everything. It's kind of the same thing with exercise.
Mm.
Like, nobody is born fit. It may be easier for some than others, but everyone has to work at it.
Oh yeah.
So being open to the idea of, you know, learning as you go. Like, everyone learns as you go. Like, whoever says they like know everything is obviously lying.
When you were starting, what are some of the thoughts that kind of lurk around at the back of your mind that's trying to stop you?
It's actually funny. So with respect to Kaibigan Connection, it was originally an idea. And as more people started to become interested in it and attended our events, I began to develop this imposter syndrome. And for me, it actually had to do with my background. Like, growing up in Canada, I was born here and I grew up here. I didn't really feel very Filipino. I didn't know that much about the culture. I felt more Canadian than Filipino. And I was really worried that I wouldn't be able to pull it off, or people would think that I'm some sort of fake because I'm not really, or I didn't consider myself to be really Filipino. So that was actually one of the biggest things. So it was actually more of an internal struggle I had with
Mhm.
myself.
Yeah, could you share with us a little bit more about maybe the conversations you're having with yourself, when you were having those struggles? I know that a lot of our audience here can relate to that.
Yeah, for sure. It would be just things, even simple things like, well, I don't even speak the language. Like, I'm fluent in English. I don't just like little insignificance looking back on it now. I don't really have that many Filipino friends. I don't know enough about the culture. I don't even really eat the food, but I think now, because of Kaibigan Connection, I'm more exposed to all these amazing people and learning more about the culture. So
It's really powerful because I know, first of all, being here in Canada as well, uh, I've met a lot of, like, let's just, I've had a previous interview actually where we talk about your identity being here and abroad and how you kind of try to find that mesh as an immigrant. And definitely, a lot of people struggle with that, and we don't often talk about it. But I love that you brought that up, because your quest for finding connection back to your roots actually created this amazing networking community. And now, like, we've expanded, you founded this in Canada, you've expounded I can't even speak, expanded it in the States, and now here in our platform, I'm hoping that we can attract more of our fellow Filipinos all over the world who are watching this. So it's really exciting, because you've seen that from that passion project. I know you relate Kaibigan Connection with your passion project on the blog being able to lead you to this. And one of the things that you advocate a lot is actually creating your own opportunities, right? So I recently read one of your blogs about how you should pitch yourself to other podcasters and stuff like that. Now, I'm curious, when someone is getting started, obviously, say, they just started their passion project and they don't have a lot of portfolio, I guess, to show for yet. What are some practical tools or strategies that you've personally done in order for you to create opportunities for yourself?
I think so. Starting a blog is definitely a great way to start creating opportunities for yourself. I think, if anything, to start building that portfolio. So asking to, guest post on other blogs. So the fact that I'm being featured on Elevate TV, like, that's another opportunity that I can use. And to not be afraid to ask. So even if you're just starting out, you have to realize, again, just going back to what I would mention before, like, everyone has to start somewhere to start networking with people and start asking for opportunities such as like, hey, can you interview me? I just started a blog. I'd like to share my experience, why I started a blog. Don't be afraid. Like, I think a lot of people, when they think about pitching to blogs, podcasts, magazines, they think that they have to have a ton of accolades, and you don't necessarily have to do that. I think if you have at least, you know, something online, the fact that you've actually started something, that can start a conversation.
I love that. That's really powerful because it keeps a lot of people stuck when they feel like, oh my gosh, I'm just starting out and I'm reaching to this maybe major influencer who has more followers than I do, right? A lot of the times it has nothing to do with that. The way that maybe marketing and business works in the past, as you know, Karen can prove that it's not the way online businesses work nowadays. It's very different. Now, one of the things that I absolutely love too about how you have, started all this, your adventure in Kaibigan Connection, is you really used something that, you were mentioning something at first. A project can sometimes start like a selfish thing, like you're trying
Yes.
to achieve something for yourself. So how do you then bridge that gap between your initial, initial desires for yourself and then seeing the mission behind this?
I think it was the fact that what I considered to be like my own selfish reasons were actually the same reasons for other people. So in a sense, that didn't seem selfish. I noticed that, or Rigel and I both noticed that, you know, other people also wanted to become more in touch with the Filipino culture. Other people also wanted to connect with other Filipino entrepreneurs and professionals. So it's almost as if it kind of, you know, became this cult, like we were all selfish to say, like this whole like collective, like we all wanted to do these things with each other and learn more about the culture, and yeah, just be able to share our own experiences with each other.
What has been the most memorable thing that you guys have experienced in Kaibigan Connection for you? I'm curious.
Oh, there's so many. Oh my goodness. I wasn't prepared for this question. Can I say two? If it's
Yeah,
if that's
yeah,
right.
for sure.
So I guess one of them was when we were asked to speak at the Filipino National Youth Conference in Ottawa,
Oh. Mhm.
Pinoy's on Parliament. That was memorable because we weren't even around for less than a year, but you know, they considered us somebody worth presenting a workshop, and we also like took on a couple of people to mentor. So that was really really nice, and it just kind of spurred the thought in us, like not only should we look into connecting Filipino entrepreneurs and professionals, but also looking toward help elevating the next generation
Hmm.
of Filipino entrepreneurs and professionals, because it just kind of goes back to, again, my experience thinking I wanted to do like I thought about doing all these things and they sound like great, but there was nobody that looked like me or similar to me to encourage those dreams, to say like, oh, you can pursue this, or why don't you try this out, or I can connect you. So to take on that leadership role, it's really significant. And the other one is when we celebrated our 1 year anniversary, which you were
Yeah, I was
also
there.
a part of, and it was really great. It meant a lot to us that people, you know, were there, and to show up, and just that they had also, you know, were thankful that we had created this. So that was significant, the fact that we made it to a year, because as you know, a lot of the times some businesses, they don't even make it to a year, or they
Hmm.
decide to shut down. So yeah, it gave us more motivation to continue this.
Did you have that vision when you started Kaibigan Connection?
Not even close. So it's kind of one of those things too with the blog. Again, it was a passion project. I never really expected too much out of it, to be honest. I had always thought I'd follow the same path as both my parents, working for the same, or working at the same job or company for 25, 30 years, collect
Hmm.
a pension. I had never expected to go down this path. So the same thing with Kaibigan Connection, because I was also trying to focus on making the bacon as well. So Kaibigan Connection was just more of a, hey, I have an idea, let's try it out, let's see where this goes. And it was funny because originally I believe the plan was just to have one event. We're like, okay, this is one event. This is great. And then as I've told many people before, they would send us messages or come up to us after each event and said, oh my gosh, that was so great. I can't wait till the next one. And we're like, oh, the next one.
Next
And
one.
then and the same conversation kept on happening, like, oh yeah, looking for the next one. I'm like, next one. So we had to keep on going. But I mean, in addition
How many events have you hosted in the 1 year?
Okay, I think I need to count for some reason. So we did our first one. We did a retreat. We did like a mini mixer, and then we also had a creatives event. So we did 4 within the year, and then yeah, this year we've done quite a few online events.
Virtuals, yeah.
Yeah, virtual events. So it's funny how you know, we're continuing to do events, but we're also looking to add more resources to provide to the community.
That's really exciting. You know, when some of the things that really struck to me with your story is, first, you're an action taker. You know, like, you guys, you just have to understand that here in the entrepreneurial world, and I would say I'm more of the opposite. When I started, I'm very analytical and I like to plan things out. And I would say in the entrepreneurial world, they value and they honor action takers. So Karen here is an amazing action taker, has an idea, executes it, right? And it gets you results. So I really love that. And I hope the audience will be inspired to just start taking action. You don't need to know every single step. And another thing that you had mentioned is actually speaking up and, you know, creating that opportunity for yourself. Now, I know that a lot of the people watching our show right now may not be entrepreneurs just yet. Maybe they're just getting started. But you shared with me a story actually that struck with me, you know, stayed with me. When you were still working your job, I remember you were telling me you were commuting like an hour back and, you know, going to your work and then back and forth. And it was just like exhausting, right? And you mentioned that you had just told your supervisor or your boss that you wanted to work from home. And it was not an option. You literally just spoke up, and this your boss basically said yes, right? And so could you share a little bit more about, you know, having that confidence to ask for what you believe is possible and what your worth is? Because sometimes some people may not even see it as an option, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've just always been this person who's curious and, you know, just ask, and I figure, like, what's the worst that that can happen? They can say no, or they can say later on. So yeah, just kind of reiterating what you mentioned. I was going back and forth. I love the job. It was really great, but as we know, that commutes can take a toll on your mind and body. And I had noticed too that within my own team, with the people I was working with, they were all remote. So I was the only person who was coming in to the office. So I, you know, that was one of the reasons I pled my case. And then in addition to commuting, and the way we started out with was that one day I would be remote, and then eventually it increased to the entire week. As long as I was able to prove to them I was still able to communicate efficiently and get my work done. So and of course, you know, I was scared too, because it's a new job and who am I to ask all these things just after a few months. But I had felt that I had proved myself within the first few months that I was, you know, a fast learner and a hard worker and effective communicator. So I think if you can prove, or you know, you can potentially show them the value in the opportunity, the value in the ask, then it's definitely worth giving it a shot.
Karen, where does that boldness come from?
I don't know, because to be honest, I tell everyone that I'm an introvert. Like, with respect to that personality test, I'm an INTP. But as you mentioned, you know, I agree, I am an action taker, but I'm also impatient too. It's just one of those things. I can't wait for other people, and the thing is, if you wait for things to be perfect, if you wait for other people, like, it will never get done. So yes, take those steps. It's okay to be afraid, but don't let your fear stop you.
Love it. So share with us. I know that Kaibigan Connection, you know, we celebrated first anniversary a couple of months ago now. But what's next? What can we expect from it?
So as of right now, I'm working on the website. So I'm hoping to have that launched before the end of summer. So yeah, it just kind of ties into everything we've been doing. It'll be a place where you can learn more about us, see videos from our events. And then we're also hoping to have more offerings for the community, such as a directory and a membership, because when we first started our in-person events, it was a great way to connect with people within the Greater Toronto area. But then we found, as everyone else realizes, the beauty of online businesses, online networking, you can reach a lot more people. So by having these online offerings, we hope to educate and elevate even more Filipinos around the world.
That's very exciting, guys. So definitely, I'm a part of their community, and I would love for you to be able to check it out. We'll send the links down below. And once again, if you enjoyed this series, make sure you share it with your friends and your family, because chances are, this will not only help you, but will also help them. And before we just wrap up this conversation, I want to ask Karen, what's your parting message for our viewers today?
To just start. I always say this in like my podcast episodes too. It's like Nike, just do it. Just do it, put it out
Just do
there.
it.
I guess this message sounds a little more longer, but the thing is, if you don't put yourself out there, then people won't know. Like, people can't read minds. They can't see you if you're not putting yourself out there. If you're not speaking up, they can't hear you. So yeah, just don't be afraid. Or as I was saying, it's okay to be afraid to put yourself out there, but just do it.
Just do it. Plain and simple, guys. Just do it. And I mean, look at Karen. She created her blog. At first you mentioned as a way to escape your job, right? But now it has opened a world of opportunities for her. And she's been connecting so many Filipinos around the world because of that one thing that she just started. So yeah, definitely just start, guys. So once again, thank you so much, Karen, for joining me here. And for everyone who wants to check out Kaibigan Connection and even her blog, we will link it down below. And if this is really, if this inspired you, please share this with your friends and your family, because we are on a mission here to help and elevate Filipinos so that we can all rise together and shift the culture. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Paige, and this is my dear friend Karen, and we'll see you on the next episode.